This show is produced by the Hartman Media Company. For more information and links to all our great podcasts, visit hartmanmedia.com.
Welcome to the AIPIS show for accredited income property investment specialists and those who aspire to be. If you're a real estate, mortgage, or financial professional, this is the place for you. We'll explore innovative investment analysis, sales, marketing, and income-generating strategies for the most historically proven wealth creator, income property. Learn from the experts as they show you how to build a better business and a better life.
It is my pleasure to welcome my friend Julia Spencer back to the show. She did a fantastic class for our Empowered Mentoring Group on tax sale investing, and we're here to talk a little bit more about that today and why it's something that you might be interested in. Julia, first of all, welcome back, but also thank you so much for spending about an hour and a half with our Empowered Mentoring members last week. That was really valuable to the members. I heard great feedback and just wanted to have you on the show again as a little bit of a follow-up to that maybe. But tell us, why are you interested in tax sale investing? What is tax sale investing? Why did you choose this path versus all the other paths you could have chosen in real estate?
Well, thanks for having me back again. I appreciate it. So the very first thing, what is it? It's basically purchasing properties for pennies on the dollar for outstanding taxes. And that's really a mouthful because there's a lot of different avenues and different nuances, but it's basically people default on paying their taxes and their properties are being auctioned off. And that is how I acquired them.
Right. So there are really sort of three methods to this, right? Mm-hmm. Or three, I guess, investment opportunities in the tax sale arena, right?
Well, yeah, there's more than that to it even, but the three main ones, I think, is what you're going for, is the types of vehicles that you can purchase the properties under, like a deed, a lien, and a tax lien certificate. I think that's what you're going for, right? Right.
Yeah, that's what I'm looking for. And just explain briefly, if you would, kind of the differences between those.
Well, if you purchase a deed at a tax sale auction, you actually get the title to the property right then and there. And you basically walk out with the title for a property. Now, we can go into a long discussion about what kind of title it is, what you have to do to it legally to be able to insure it and get a mortgage and all this other stuff. But that's a more extended explanation. But you're basically getting the property at the auction.
Right. So you're getting the deed. You're buying the property. So that's the most, shall we say, expensive way to get involved in tax sale investing, by actually buying the property outright. But you can kind of get there potentially, or you may not even want to get there. You may not even want to ever buy the property, right? So tell us about the other two methods.
So you can purchase a lien as well. So a lot of times municipalities that assess taxes will generate a lien against the property for those outstanding taxes, and then you can buy that lien from those municipalities. And it could be counties, cities, states, sometimes even the federal government can do it as well. And you can buy basically a lien. So then you have the claim against that property versus the government municipality. So then you have to do additional steps to get the property. Or in reverse, you can just hold on to the lien and collect interest and penalties on it.
Okay. So with the lien, you're buying the rights to that stream of cash flow that may or may not come from that owner. In other words, they don't pay their taxes. So then they start getting notices, hey, you're delinquent on your taxes. Now you got to pay the tax plus a late fee, plus maybe interest. I mean, it varies in different municipalities. But then you buy the rights to that, and the government agency sells it at a discount because they want to raise, well, not necessarily at a discount. They sell it at an auction, so it'll be determined by the bidders what's paid, right? So that's their way of raising money. They want to get this, like this bad debt off their hands. So they basically sell the bad debt at an auction, right?
Right.
Okay.
And that bad debt is secured by the actual real estate. So you can potentially foreclose on it later on and get the property, or you can do a number of things. You can resell the debt, you can try to collect on the debt, you can get the property. So
the lien could potentially turn into a deed where you actually get the property, just like we started with, right?
Right.
Okay.
Additional steps are needed for that, yes.
So in your field, and we'll talk about certificates in a moment, but in your field, are there investors that don't want to ever get the property, that their whole game is just to buy and then get income from and potentially sell and trade liens, and they really don't even want the property? Does that exist?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
In fact, institutional investors is something we see a lot at these auctions. And that's just basically other banks or trust funds or investment funds, and their representatives show up and buy these properties for that cash flow.
Okay, great. So, but sometimes the opportunity is to get the property, and that's what people want. It just depends on their investment strategy and really how much they want to, roll up their sleeves and deal with an actual physical property, because there's more responsibility to that, but there could be a lot more profit in that too, right?
Right, yeah. And there's legal steps involved and potential problems, but of course the benefits are huge. Who doesn't want a property for pennies on the dollar? So
when you see those late night infomercials on TV that are misleading most of the time, to say the least, when they say, hey, I got this house for $236, I bought a house, right? What they did probably is they bought the lien and then the owner never redeemed, right? They never paid the back taxes, and eventually that property turned into a foreclosure where they turned it into a deed and they now own it, right?
Right. And there was probably quite a few more steps in between that this investor had to do to get this property for those $200,
yeah.
Which is
$236, but
sorry, yes.
In my example.
There's a couple more steps, but the nugget of truth in that infomercial is essentially it's correct what this person is saying, yes.
Right. And so those steps usually involve a lot of times hiring an attorney to do that foreclosure. That'll cost you money. They can contest it, I suppose. That'll cost you money and time. And it takes a long time. It seems like they give the owners a pretty good opportunity to pay the back taxes and the penalties, right?
Yeah, and that depends, of course, on the location. So in all 50 states of the United States, there's laws that concern that basically describe how a property can be sold. And different states have different timelines for this. So some states are more advantageous for investors. Others are more advantageous for the actual homeowner to retain their property. So yeah, it's good to know laws in the places where you want to invest and align those with your strategy, basically.
Yeah, good point there. So let's just dive into that for a moment, and then we'll get to the certificate option as well. Well, one of the things we didn't talk about yet is different government agencies pay different rates of interest. Well, they don't really pay them. They just require the property owner to pay them by the way their laws are set up. And they have different penalty structures for not paying the taxes, right? So when you buy the lien, you step into the shoes of the government agency and you get whatever they put into law, right?
Right.
Okay. Mm-hmm. But that's one element. The other element is how hard is it to actually get that property and how long does it take if you want to ultimately foreclose, or even if you want to sell your lien to somebody else, because if they know what they're doing, they'll want to buy liens in a jurisdiction that makes it easier and faster to actually acquire the property. Because the easier and faster it is to acquire the property, the more likely actually the owner is going to redeem also, because they know this. They're getting notices in the mail saying, hey, you're going to lose your property if you don't pay. So that's going to create urgency on their part. So there's really like two elements here, right? There's the ease of getting the property if you're going in that direction, and there's the amount of return on the investment while you have the income stream. So can you dissect those for us?
Well, actually, you dissected it pretty good already.
Well, I wanted you to say, maybe give a little clue or maybe an example as to jurisdictions. And, I know there's a lot to know here, and there's a lot of jurisdictions, obviously, but, just maybe an example on that.
I guess I'll just use an example here in the state of Georgia where I live. We have a very good mix of investors that go in with both kinds of ideas in mind when they go to these auctions. So people do want to get the properties when they go, and we have a lien state here, so we sell liens, not deeds. There is a redemption period. The redemption period is a year and 1 day. So whenever I go to auctions here in Georgia, it's an equal amount of investors that come in that actually want to retain the property and get the property, and then same amount of people, I guess, that want to just get the interest rate, because we have an extremely good penalty structure. Actually, we don't even have an interest rate here. So your strategy really depends on not just the ease of getting a property and whether or not you want to get the money for the return, the cash flow, but also you can structure your bidding according to what your strategy is. So, for example, if you're going to bid close to the value of a property, in Georgia, you're going to get 20% from day one. And you would want to go quite high on your price, not really wanting to get the property, but wanting to get those 20%, which is
right. That good return on investment. But interestingly, Georgia's not the highest in terms of that. There are some that pay like 36%. But again, you got to evaluate quality of properties, length of time. 1 year and 1 day, that's a pretty quick foreclosure, it sounds like.
Yeah, well, there's a little bit more to it. So some states are self-executing, where you get, after the redemption period, you get the deed basically sent to you, and the state just basically does it for you. In other states, like here in Georgia, it's not self-executing. You do have to do some legal steps in order to get the deed.
Yeah. So,
and in yet different states, you don't get any deed, and we haven't talked about that yet. Tax lien certificates. Okay. So
that's a good segue, maybe. So go into that if you want.
I guess to untangle all of this, I guess the good thing to know from the very beginning, and this is what I teach all my students as well, is to really have a really good viewpoint or idea of what you actually want to go for. What are you actually looking to do? Do you want to get property, grow your portfolio? Do you want to get cash flow? How much money do you have available? How much time do you have to research? And how willing are you to take risks? Because this is not this is an investment, so you can lose your money too.
Yeah, right. Okay, so what about certificates though? What is a tax is it called a tax certificate or tax lien certificate or tax deed certificate or just tax certificate?
It's a tax lien certificate.
Okay.
So it is basically the same as a tax lien. So it's a liability of taxes unpaid against the property. But the reason that I call it a certificate, the name isn't really all that significant. It's just that it is only it is sold by the year. So while, as for example, here in Georgia, they'll sell you a tax lien, you are essentially the owner from the day that you buy that lien. So from that point onward, you will be billed future taxes. But with the tax lien certificates, there could be other owners for the same kind of tax lien certificate as what you buy as an investor for different years. So many people on the same level for the same property, just for different years. They auction off 1 year at a time, basically. And
that's a certificate.
That's a certificate. So it's kind of difficult to obtain ownership of a property that way, because any one of those people that has a tax lien certificate for that property is on equal standing with all the other ones. So in order to move it to the next level, you would have to pay everybody else off first. or they have to pay you off. So it's only 1 year at a time. So you're not really investing in that particular method to get the property. You're really investing to get the interest from the other investors or from eventually.
Right. Okay, so if you're a certificate investor, then you're pretty much a yield or an income style investor, right? Whereas if you're a lien investor, you could be a physical property owner.
Either one. Yes.
Very likely. And obviously a deed, you're definitely going to be a physical property owner, right?
Right.
Okay.
So it's kind of like structure it as a hierarchy. When I tell investors to go into this, I always tell people, why don't you start with a tax lien certificate, see how it works, then graduate to the lien, and then graduate to the deeds if you're comfortable and have the money for it, basically.
Okay. And just out of curiosity, or maybe you like them all just in different ways, which of the three do you like best? I mean, you're very experienced at this.
I do the liens, and simply because that's what's sold here in the state of Georgia, and it's the closest and easiest for me.
But you also invest in other states as well, right?
Right. I have yet to make a purchase at a deed. Well, actually, I take that back. I did do a deed property that I purchased, but most of the properties I've purchased were liens, just straight up liens.
Mm-hmm. Okay, fantastic. Well, Julia, this is a great just overview explanation. Of course, there's a lot more to this. You spent about an hour and a half with our Empowered Mentoring Group, and I just wanted to kind of go back to the macro overview of this. And I think you did a great job explaining that to people. There's a lot to know here. This is a whole career for you. So obviously there's no way, you could impart all that knowledge to people. But what else do you want people to know? Just any parting thoughts on this?
I have a really good parting thought and I want to kind of just back that up with a story. I started with tax sale foreclosure investing many years ago, and I fell on my face, basically. I hurt myself really bad. I lost a lot of money. I didn't know what I was doing, no mentors, no books at the time, and really had no clue. And so I quit because I was scared. And I didn't have much money to lose, and I lost it all. And that's what do? You walk away. You're like, okay, maybe this is not for me. Yeah. But eventually, after 10 years, I picked it up again. And I'm like, okay, I know what I'm doing now because I won't make the same mistakes again. So I guess the parting thought is, if you're going to get into this, dedicate some time to it and do your research, get mentors, get the books, watch the YouTube videos, whatever you have to do, and really dedicate yourself to it for a while, or at least get somebody to teach it to you, because it is very, very lucrative if you know what you're doing. It could be difficult if you don't know what you're doing, but it's definitely worth it. And I feel it's a lot of fun. It's basically like thrift shopping for real estate, like going to the secondhand store for real estate.
Yeah, good stuff. Okay, Julia, this is great. Give out your website and tell people where they can find out more about you.
Yeah, absolutely. It's just my name, juliamspencer.com. Don't forget the M in the middle. You can also Google my name and I'll pop up on all social media.
Excellent. Julia, thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for listening. Please be sure to subscribe so that you don't miss any episodes. Be sure to check out the show's specific website and our general website, hartmanmedia.com, for appropriate disclaimers and terms of service. Remember that guest opinions are their own, and if you require specific legal or tax advice or advice in any other specialized area, please consult an appropriate professional. And we also very much appreciate you reviewing the show. Please go to iTunes or Stitcher Radio or whatever platform you're using and write a review for the show. We would very much appreciate that. And be sure to make it official and subscribe so you do not miss any episodes. We look forward to seeing you on the next episode.